Hey everybody, my name is Zachary Graft, and you are watching Violin Worship, a primer. And it's going to be a series of videos that really have to do with violin, or really, for that matter, any melody instrument that wants to be used in a worship setting, worship team setting. I know you're probably watching this thinking, okay, well, I play violin, but there's not too many violinists that play in worship teams, or I play flute or cello. While we're going to be talking about focusing on violin techniques and violin aspects of violin playing and how that applies, how that can apply in a practical way to playing in a contemporary worship setting. A lot of the things we're going to be talking about, though, are useful for other instruments as well. So hopefully when you're done with these videos, you're going to feel a sense of encouragement and confidence in the fact that yes, you as a melody instrument are able to play and be a very important part of a contemporary worship setting. So with that being said, a couple of pointers that I would like to make before we go on and talk about some of those techniques. This video series is not meant to be an authoritative guide to worship. This is just some of the techniques that I find work for myself as a musician, that I find also sound pleasing to the ears as well, and I think glorify God. It's not to teach you to show off in a worship setting, but give your best to God. Play skillfully, in other words. It's a fine line sometimes, but the attitudes behind playing skillfully for God or showing off are diametrically opposed, and so I think we'll talk about those attitudes and how one is important in worship, the other one has no place in worship. We'll talk about that later on in the series. What this video series is also not is it is not a violin technique primer. While I'm going to be talking about some specific violin techniques, such as double stops, I'm not going to be explaining how to play double stops and play them well. If you find that you really like this series and you really like what I'm saying, and you really want to learn how to do double stops, go ahead and post a comment or message me, and then we'll go from there. But this is just going to be a broad discussion of techniques when we talk about techniques. Some things we're going to cover in this series, though, are solo playing, when you have melodies, when to play melodies, when not to play melodies, what kind of harmonies to play, who do we follow, what instruments should we be really listening to, using our ears, double stops, what octaves even to play, whether we play low on the G string or high on the E string. We have a lot of different options as violinists, and so we're going to talk about how some of those instances where we want to play on the low string versus high string, depending on the song, type of song, how the spirit's moving, what the other instruments are doing, what your director says, all those kinds of issues. We'll try to put a practical application on some of that stuff. Ornamentation. I'm very influenced by the Celtic music tradition, and so a lot of times, probably much to the chagrin of some of my fellow musicians sometimes, I do like to ornament stuff. I'm not a rock violinist per se, even though a lot of contemporary worship does boil down to more of a Christian rock kind of style. I'm not a rock violinist. I'm a classically trained violinist, and I fiddle a lot. So those influences do come out, unfortunately. But that's just me as a musician. You will probably play completely different than I do, and that's perfectly all right. If you do have any suggestions for this video series, or a video topic that you'd like to discuss, or you disagree with something I'm saying and you want to discuss about that, feel free to message me or post a comment. All right, I'm very open. Like I said, this is not, I'm not laying down any rules here. I'm just laying down some of my ideas that I found that are useful and work for myself. Yeah, I think that's about sums it up. I'm looking forward to this series, and again, I hope you enjoy this, and if you have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever, feel free to leave me a message. Alright, thank you. Good night.